Have you ever wondered why top investors get into projects that almost nobody is talking about? Sky is one of those coins. A rebrand, real-world assets, and huge staking yields are making it red hot right now. Definitely stick around until the end, and I'll show you the numbers that make this whole thing really exciting. Welcome to 10x Crypto, your channel for honest, data-driven altcoin analysis. If you want to know which projects truly have substance and can survive in the market in the medium and long term, then stick around. We're going to look at Sky now, the successor to MakerDAO, a coin that has already received billions in investments. But before we start, a quick personal note. I don't know about you, but in the beginning, it took me forever to find a good crypto exchange. Most of them are expensive, confusing, or just completely overloaded. But I wanted something simple, where you can securely buy coins, store them safely, and that isn't buried in hundreds of menus. And that's why I now use my partner exchange. It's regulated in Switzerland, has low fees, and is one of the cheapest on the market. And if you sign up using my link, you'll also get up to a €50 Bitcoin bonus, and you'll start directly at the silver rank, which means you get cashback right away. All the info is in the pinned comment. But now, let's get to Sky. We'll go through all the key figures in a moment, but first, let me explain what Sky actually is. Sky isn't a meme token. It's not a short-term hype, but rather the heart of a new ecosystem in the DeFi space. Technically, Sky is a governance token for a decentralized financial system that runs on Ethereum, so it's completely based on proof of stake. This means no mining, no wasted energy, but instead a highly efficient network. But what makes Sky so special? The focus is on stablecoins and real-world assets. That is, real assets from the real world that are represented on the blockchain. For example, a house or a villa that can be represented on the blockchain and traded there. With this, Sky bridges the gap between the traditional financial world and decentralized blockchain technology. The goal is clear: a stable, secure, interest-based DeFi system that generates long-term returns. The most well-known stablecoins in the system are USDS, the successor to DAI. USDS is fully over-collateralized and operates without banks or government deposits. This means you can invest your money in DeFi without a central institution getting in the way. And that's exactly the reason why big investors are taking notice. Before we get started together, first grab a relaxing coffee and leave a like for me. And if you want to find interesting altcoin gems early on, then you should check out the 10x Elite. There, on one hand, you get a look into my personal crypto portfolio so you can see exactly which projects I'm actually invested in. Then you get access to the 10x ranking list. In it, I've rated over 100 altcoins by percentage and put everything into a ranking. Then you can also use the 10x indicator, which you're already familiar with from my videos. And additionally, in the 10x Elite, I also provide market updates, for example, as well as info on my own trades. On top of that, there's the 10x Gem Radar, where I show you exciting low-cap altcoins early on, before they reach the mainstream. So if you want to move away from speculation and chance, and instead rely on data, structure, and strategy, then the 10x Elite is the next logical step for you. And right now, you can get a 30% discount on your first month with the code 10x. You can find all the info in the video description. It's the very first link. Let's start, as always, with the market cap. Around $1.2 billion US. Of course, it might be a little higher or lower at this point in time. For Sky, it's more in the mid-cap range. This means it's not too small, but also not too risky, and ultimately it's large enough to be taken seriously. So the growth potential is there. I'll give this a solid 7. Let's move on to the second point, the circulating supply. 97% of the tokens are already in circulation. That's obviously massive. This means there's hardly any inflation, few major unlocks, and no hidden dilution. This is especially good for long-term investors, as it means the price won't be subjected to as much internal pressure. I'll give this a strong 10. Then what about the roadmap? The plan is clear. SubDAOs, real-world assets, its own chain, and a stable governance system. The team is sticking to its timelines. The rebrand and the USDS launch have already been completed. This is a structured vision that definitely builds trust. A strong 9. Then let's move on to the next point, the team. Behind Sky is Rune Christensen, the founder of MakerDAO. He's a DeFi pioneer with decades of experience. In addition, there are developers from the MakerDAO team and people who have managed billions and survived multiple cycles. A strong 9 in this area. Then what about the narrative? The main theme is decentralized stablecoins and real-world assets. This is a trend that will become increasingly important in 2025 and beyond, because governments and banks want to regulate stablecoins. Sky, however, remains decentralized and aims for sustainable DeFi yields. I'll give this a strong 9. Then, what problem are they actually solving? The problem is that many stablecoins are centralized. The solution is USDS, an over-collateralized, decentralized stablecoin that maintains its stability without the help of banks. The system is transparent and completely permissionless. A strong 10. Then what about sustainability? Sky ultimately runs on Ethereum, so it's proof of stake without energy-intensive mining. This, of course, saves electricity and reduces the ecological footprint. I'll give this a strong 8. Then, what about the investors and the capital? The project is supported by Paradigm and Dragonfly Capital, for example, the 3 largest venture funds in the crypto market. All 3 only invest in projects that have a clear roadmap and a real structure. Plus, there's an $8 million surplus in the protocol for buybacks or grants. Here, a strong 9, they're very well positioned. So what about the competition? The direct competitors are USDT, USDC, FRAX or LUSD. But Sky sets itself apart. A decentralized structure, RWA integration, a proven system, an extremely strong mix of stability and innovation. A strong 8. By the way, if you're interested in comparisons like this or other altcoins I've already analyzed, then check out the 10x Universe playlist. I've analyzed quite a few already. Just look in the video description, I've linked it there for you. Next, let's talk about marketing. They focus heavily on X, meaning Twitter, Discord, and also community forums. The focus is more on education and staking campaigns, as well as partnerships. They are particularly effective in the DeFi space, of course. Here, a strong 8. So how simple is the idea? How easy is it to understand? The core principle is clear. The technical details, however, are complex. For newcomers, it's definitely a bit more challenging, but anyone familiar with DeFi will grasp it quickly. A strong 7. Then, what about the long-term vision? The goal is ambitious. They want a DeFi system with SubDAOs, their own chain, meaning their own network, and global use of RWAs. A foundation for billions in tokenized assets. Here the vision is massive. A 9. What about the tokenomics? They have a smart burn system that uses surpluses to buy back Sky and then burn it. This is a deflationary model. Real cash flow is converted into value. That's obviously very good, a strong 9. Next, FDV. What's the situation there? That's the fully diluted market cap. The ratio is 1.02 times the market cap, which means there's virtually no inflation from future unlocks. That's a sign of a fair valuation. That's why it gets a strong 10 here. What about the volume? The trading volume was around $11 million, which indicates strong liquidity. Enough activity for stable price formation, a good 9 here. Then what was the initial token distribution like? It was essentially done through an upgrade of old MKR tokens with a clear vesting structure and protection against immediate dumping. A solid 7 here. Next, let's look at the top coin holders. Around 20 to 30% is held by large whales and institutions. That's a bit concentrated, but still sufficiently decentralized. However, in this area, it's still only a 6. Then what about the utility? Sky offers governance, staking, and access to SubDAOs, so those are its functions. That's a clear utility within the ecosystem and not just for price speculation. A strong 9. Then we come to the community. Over 50,000 active members, and the number is growing. They are very engaged, especially in the voting within the governance system, but also in staking events. Here a strong 8. And by the way, are you a Sky holder or are you a fan of MakerDAO and Sky? Write it in the comments. I'm curious to see how you view the project. Then what milestones are coming up next? In the next 6 months, new SubDAOs, more RWA collaterals, and its own chain are coming. This could, of course, boost adoption extremely. In this area, a strong 8. Now, if we look at the complete analysis, you can see quite quickly that Sky is one of the strongest DeFi projects currently on the market. It doesn't rely on short-term hypes, Instead, it's a stable project with structure, experience, and real utility. Technically, Sky really stands on a stable foundation. It's based on Ethereum's proof of stake, which means an efficient and sustainable blockchain. The system is decentralized, it doesn't need banks, and it operates completely transparently. With that, Sky naturally fulfills exactly what is important to many DeFi investors: stability, security, and independence. One of the biggest plus points is the integration of USDS, the successor to DAI. That is extremely strong. Sky is one of the few projects that want to use a truly decentralized stablecoin and operate it successfully. On top of that, there's a smart burn mechanism, which is of course effectively deflationary, which is also a strong point. On my 10x ranking list, which I'll show now, they achieve 85.1%. That's an extremely strong score, which I wouldn't have expected. But at the same time, it also means they are so strong because it's an extremely good project. You should definitely keep an eye on this one. As I said, I'll show the list here. Let's now talk about possible price scenarios, as always, from the bear case up to 2030. But first, let's get to the bear case. Imagine the crypto market enters a long sideways phase. Regulation, decreasing demand, less capital in the DeFi space. In that environment, Sky is of course not optimally positioned. Here, Sky could be between 0.03 and 0.05 US dollars. Let's move on to the normal scenario. Bitcoin dominance rises, but DeFi rises as well. Sky would truly solidify its place in the DeFi ecosystem, and many would use the stablecoins. In that case, 0.10 to 0.20 dollars would be possible, so 10 to 20 cents. Now let's come to the optimistic scenario. Imagine DeFi experiences a renaissance, meaning institutional investors want in. Real-world assets becomes a $1 million market. Sky is right in the middle of it. The system works, the burns take effect, and demand increases globally. In that case, 50 cents to $1 would be possible. Now let's move to the very optimistic scenario. What if Sky ultimately becomes the next generation of DeFi on a global level? A system that digitizes real-world assets, offers interest, and acts as a bridge between crypto and the traditional financial world. In that scenario, 2 to 3 US dollars would be theoretically and mathematically possible. But now let's get to the vision for 2030. First comes the bear market. Altcoins can lose over 99%. But then the next bull market will come again. If DeFi continues to establish itself by 2030 and becomes part of everyday life, then Sky could of course absolutely and massively profit from that. And then we might be talking about price scenarios of 4 to 5 US dollars if RWAs also take off. BlackRock said they want to tokenize everything. What does that mean for Sky? Now let's get to my chart analysis for Sky. How does it look at the moment? What would I do right now? Hello and welcome to the chart analysis of Sky. For your information, as mentioned at the beginning, I use TradingView and a custom developed indicator. How does Sky look at the moment? There was a rebrand here in effect. The coin was launched here and then it rose afterwards. Let's take a quick look. First, there was a bit of a sell-off, then it rose 33%, and then it just kept going down. I believe we had that flash crash here, and it's been going down ever since. In any case, at the moment, we actually formed a small red dot, which is a sign here that we have a bearish trend reversal. And we did, and it went down. Right now we have a large green dot, which basically means that we've entered an oversold zone. So many people have sold. It's an oversold zone, a green dot, which is actually more of a sign that we may have seen a bottom forming. And by the way, a small green dot means a bullish trend reversal, as you can see here. In any case, it currently looks like we may have formed a bottom. There's never a 100%, let's say, probability for that, but the chances are definitely quite good. If you want to know, yes, when I get into altcoins, or when, for example, I always do dollar cost averaging with, for example, Bitcoin, then take a look at the 10x Elite, or you can just get the 10x indicator yourself. You can find all the information directly in the video description in the first 2 links. Stop! Before you go, I have another exciting altcoin for you here. Why you don't want to miss this one, I'll show you in the full analysis. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in a moment.